I think. Yeah. One.
Okay, ready? 3.
So welcome everyone to the Flinders New Venture Institute at Flinders and Tonsley. And today is another session of our Envision Talk series, Smart Business Strategies with Sarah Reimann. So before we start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we stand here today, the Kaurna people, as well as the other First Nations of Australia. And I would also like to pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. So a quick few housekeeping notices. So the restrooms are just behind the lifts, and also in case of an emergency, the emergency stairwell is located just outside the room on the right. So if we hear a beeping sound, we just prepare ourselves, and once that beeping sound turns into a whooping sound, then we will evacuate the building. But now let's turn to the topic of today's talk. So today, as I said, we are very pleased to have Sarah Reimann with us. So Sarah is a certified business advisor. She's a financial expert and a professional speaker. She helps businesses with consulting and coaching services in order to provide them with smart business and financial strategies for them to grow and scale up. Sarah has also over 15 years of experience as a qualified accountant in the tax accounting industry, and she had also her own business. So you could say that she really knows the ins and outs of businesses as well as the challenges that they face on an everyday basis. So without further ado, please let's give a warm applause to Sarah to welcome her here today. Yeah. Now, over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Alessandro. Can you all hear me? Okay, yep, it's coming through. Okay, today I want to talk to you about fitness. I know what you're all thinking. You're going, right, this is a business workshop. Why are we talking about fitness? But I want to talk to you about a different kind of fitness today. And it's the kind of fitness that keeps a roof over our head. It keeps us jumping out of bed in the morning. It keeps us with food on the table and clothes on our back. So, you know, when we think about exercise, or fitness in our own bodies, it's about eating right, it's about maybe running or going to the gym, keeping physically fit, you know, and even mentally fit. You know, we can pray or meditate or affirmations, whatever those sort of things are to keep us emotionally fit, can't we? And if we, you know, we can take courses, we can come to uni and develop our education to keep ourselves and our learning up to date. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this is me running down First Avenue in New York back about 5 or 6 years ago. I did the New York Marathon, me and my husband, and I've run a few marathons in the last 7 or 8 years, and also, you know, some little 5 and 10K events. But, you know, when you want to run a marathon, you've got to put some effort in, don't you? You've got to put some training in. So you want to run 42, you want to run 21, you want to run 10, or you just want to do your couch to 5K. Okay, we've got to put some training and effort in. And if we sit on the couch and watch TV, then that's probably not going to, you know, get us up out of bed in the morning. If we're eating junk food, if we're, you know, overindulging in perhaps foods or alcohol and things like that, it's not conducive with training or trying to run a marathon, is it? So I had to, I didn't start running until I was about 37. Prior to that, I had 37 years of really not doing a lot at all. Family wasn't a big advocate for sport. They weren't very active. They didn't really encourage it when I was a kid. So I had to break a habit of sort of being lazy. Well, not lazy, but just not training. You know, I might have went for the odd walk with the dog here and there. You know, and it's no different when we talk about business or finances. You know, we've got to keep fit and healthy in terms of how we run our business and how we run our finances, and even a household budget, don't we? So the fitness in terms of financial fitness or business fitness is, you know, things like knowing our numbers in our business. Who here is a business owner, or who is an aspiring business owner, or yeah, okay. So you're all understanding that there's a journey in business and that we need to look after these things. So, you know, when we talk about, I mean, I'm a little bit averse to the financial side because I come from accounting, and I've also seen lots of business owners go wrong in that area. But it's not just looking at your bank account or how much people owe you. It's a holistic view of what's going on in your business. It's looking at every aspect of your business, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. There's a lot of different little components, as you know, that go into a business to keep it running and keep it healthy. You know, we need to know in our business what are the maximum amount that we need to cover costs, and when we talk about break-even points and those sort of things. You know, we need to know how much it's going to cost just for the everyday runnings of stuff like that, don't we? So who's here in business to make a loss? No hands going up. Who wants to make a profit? We're all in business to make a profit, aren't we? Yeah. We didn't start our business. We don't want to run our business at a loss. That'd be crazy. So, you know, we've all got bills to pay, mouths to feed, etc., haven't we? And we've all got to make money. But more on the business fitness stuff later. So, what differentiates, you know, business success or failure is the sort of the next things, and what do business owners struggle with the most? So, has anyone heard the saying, culture eats strategy for breakfast? Has anyone heard something like that, some sort of quote like that? And whoever said that is like a leadership expert, isn't he? Talking about how teams work cohesively together and that sort of stuff. You know, and they're in a sort of a friendly, encouraging environment. If you haven't got a good culture, then it doesn't matter how good your strategic plan is. You know, if we can't get the right good people to implement it, then it's not going to work. You know, there's a stat out that says that 10% of strategies are successfully implemented, and that 70% of CEO failures are due to a poor execution of those strategies. So strategy execution, we've got the strategy, we've got the plan there, has to be one of the top reasons that businesses fail. There's a whole lot of other ones, but it's probably one of the top ones. So if we're going to build a successful business, then we want to kind of try and limit or avoid some of these mistakes or these errors. That's probably a top priority. You don't want to go out, just like you're not going out into business to make a loss, you don't want to go out in business to fail or execute poorly on things or make the wrong decisions. So implementing those right strategies, making those right decisions is key. And the most successful businesses are those that are able to define success factors, and then they build systems and people around them to kind of like automate that sort of stuff and drive that business forward. So why do business owners struggle, and why can I tell you why? Like Alessandro said, I've worked with business owners probably the last 15 years. So my clients are typically SMEs, you know, they might have one director or something like that, and they're working in, they're working on, they're trying to do all the things. So that's what they're trying to do. So although success is measured in a number of ways, as we know, what are the reasons that most business owners regard as having achieved success? And the first is profitability. If you rate yourself in terms of success, one of those things would be that you're profitable. That would be, I'm sure that everyone would have that on their list. It's not just that, but it's one of the things. And then also being able to, I believe, build a business, and this also depends on what industry you're in, is building a business that's an asset, that's profitable enough to be sold at some point. That's what we probably, a lot of small business owners, their business is their superannuation. They're going to sell it one day, or they hope to sell it maybe one day. So we need to build an asset that's valuable to someone, and it's only valuable to someone else if it's profitable. So the second sort of measurement is, you know, if it is building an asset to sell, statistics also tell us that only 20% of business owners that actually put their business on the market to sell actually successfully sell it. there's a lot of business owners that never even decide to sell because their business is not saleable. And there could be a number of reasons because of that. One of them can be 100% owner reliance, because that person is the only person, if they leave, that's it, the business is finished. But also that it's not profitable. So my parents had a business for 30 years. So I actually learned from that what not to do, unfortunately, in business. I learnt that you don't borrow, and they had a lot of borrowing and debt and things like that. I only saw credit cards and car loans and that sort of thing when I was growing up. So I kind of learnt, okay, I don't want to be like that. I need to find a different way of doing business. So that's why I'm sort of on a mission to do this sort of thing with you guys. So why do business owners struggle? I think there's 5 top areas that business owners struggle with. One of them's cash flow. I mean, we know that if you run out of cash in business, you're not going to have a business for too long. Yes, you can borrow, but it's only going to plug holes for a certain amount of time. And again, banks, if you want lending and stuff like that, they're going to be looking at, are you cash flow positive? Have you got the means and the funds to pay back any sort of loans that you borrow? And many business owners don't understand the concept of cash flow versus profit. That's probably a whole nother seminar, but we understand that cash coming in doesn't necessarily mean that you've got profits on bottom lines and stuff like that. So when we talk about cash flow, we need to be able to look at all the other things like our break even, how much we need to cover costs and things, because employees don't want to wait to get paid, and the landlord's not going to wait for rent and stuff like that. So we've got to constantly keep an eye on our cash flow, and many business owners fail in this area because they just haven't been taught. They haven't been taught about numbers, haven't been taught about cash. So in a nutshell, cash flow, difference between outgoings and inflowing, what you're paying out, what's actually going through your bank account, as opposed to profit, which can be, time sensitive in terms of who's paying you when and what. And a lot of business people too, in terms of cash flow, say to me, so I've gone out and I've just got a $100,000 contract with a new customer to install, blinds in all of their housing or something like that. But that doesn't necessarily turn into profit if they haven't done the other side of it and looked at their costs. I've seen this happen quite a lot, especially in manufacturing, when you can consider, or retail, that you've got high overheads in those areas. You could be actually bleeding cash and not even making a profit, even though you've just gone and sold 100,000. So over the years, a lot of clients have said to me, yeah, I look at my numbers. So when I ask them, have you looked at your numbers? They go, yep, I've looked at 2, my bank balance and my debtors. Now, unfortunately, just those 2 numbers aren't quite enough to really look at the health or the fitness of our business, because it's not an indication of we're not taking into account loan payments, we're not taking into account expenses, but because a lot of people don't understand the concept of profit and losses or balance sheets or the accounting function, they're only going, right, what's my bank? Okay, I've got 10 grand in there, I've got 100 grand in there, I'm good. And they're looking at their debtors. But really, if their bank account only had 10 grand, they might have $10,000 worth of bills they've got to pay tomorrow, and then that bank account's going to diminish really quickly. So we need to be looking at a whole lot more than just debtors and bank balances. And as I said before, poor execution of strategy is one of the second top things that business owners struggle with. So who's heard of the saying, if we fail to plan, we're planning to fail? Okay, we've probably heard that, quite a few times. And it's true, because even though business owners start off with a great intention, we're all going to start off in business to make a profit, to create time and freedom for ourselves, so we're not chained to the 9 to 5, whatever. Most people have that sort of desire. And they might even go out and go to some sort of course and do a robust business plan and spend ages and ages. But at the end of the day, when we get caught up in some of the day-to-day stuff of our business, those strategies and those plans can really kind of like go out the window, because we're not prioritising that time to spend on it. And again, there's no point in having a business plan like that and then just printing it out and putting it on the shelf and it's just going to get dust. And it needs to be active, reviewed, robust, that sort of thing. Because it's a roadmap and a vision and a mission for who's got a vision or a mission in their business? Who's actually written a business plan with a vision, mission, values statement in it? Has anyone ever done that sort of exercise? Yeah. So you know that it's important to do that, and any sort of business training program will say to you, you've got to have that stuff. But executing poorly on those things, it doesn't matter how good it is. If we execute poorly, then the changes aren't going to. So some of the things that might institute poor strategy execution is if we've got a team, if it's not just us, is unclear guidelines for key staff. They've got this plan, you've got this plan here, but it's not clear on how they're going to actually execute some of those actions. So if we start delegating, we go, all right, we've got this business plan, this is where we're going, we've got our roadmap, we're 2021 and this is where we're going to be in 2025. If we haven't got a really clear guide as to how us or our team are going to execute the little actions, because we all know that it's all the little tiny actions that we take every day that are going to get us to that 2025. If we haven't got that in place, then we're going to execute poorly. So it can also, poor strategy execution can also lead to disengaged employees and disillusionment, because we're getting to the point where the business owner's going, okay, we're not hitting these targets, we're not executing this strategy well, and people can just be disappointed with what's going on. So I feel that's the second sort of top issue where business owners struggle. Number 3 is lack of accountability. So for themselves and for their employees, they lack accountability, and that's why they struggle, is because, as I said before, in the SME sector, there's normally only 1 or 2 directors in a company. Very often it's a mum and dad, it's husband and wife or spouses that own the business. And lots of them say to me when they have employee issues is, Sarah, I'm too soft. I'm a soft boss. That's what, I don't like to get angry. I don't want to force things. I think I let people get away with things too easily, that sort of stuff. And because they want to please everyone, they want to be, they're sort of seen as the Mr. Nice Guy boss, that sort of thing. So they're not following up on things that they should. Who knows that everyone, to some degree, thrives on some sort of accountability? Who thinks human nature is that we thrive on some sort of, we've got someone to be accountable to. And if business owners are not sort of monitoring what employees are doing, in terms of, timesheets, sales, closure rates, those sort of KPI type of issues, then employers will just sort of settle into, oh, well, no one's checking, so, no accountability, I'll just keep doing the same old. So the wheels can fall off there, and that can lead to inefficiencies, it can lead to bad financial performance, it can lead to drops in productivity as well when there's no accountability, because the business owner hasn't got their finger on the pulse, because the accountability is about testing, measuring, looking, checking, those sort of things. If we're not doing that, we're going to struggle as well. I find I'm the most productive and most motivated, and my business has the biggest growth spurts when my timelines and deadlines are in place for me. If I know I've got a presentation coming up, who thrives on a deadline? Who's got something coming up? You've got to get something done or lodge something or submit something. Deadlines force us to get into gear, don't they? And when I've got a coach or someone that keeps me accountable to those things, that's when I do my best in my business if I look back over the last few years. When I haven't had a coach or I haven't had anyone that's accountable looking over my shoulder, you don't see growth. Who would agree with that? Who would agree in some way that someone pushing you, just like a footy team, they got a coach. Most of those guys excel because they've got someone pushing them to do better and telling, and they've got deadlines. They've got to be fit to go to the game, don't they? Number 4, in terms of business owners' difference between failure and successes, is lack of systems and procedures, and this is a really big area in SME sector. It's a big area because people start a business, have the best intentions again, but things like this, procedures, processes, checklists, whatever you want to call it, tend to sort of take a back seat because the business owner starts the business, all the stuff's in his head, but if we don't get it out on paper or get it out into some sort of plan, then we're the only one that's going to know about it. So having those things in place, again, helps employees. It helps the team to know exactly where the business is going, to know what they're meant to be doing on any given day, and they can all work succinctly. So, if we have a business plan, we've created one. A lot of business owners have only done it for finance. A lot of banks want, who knows that a lot of banks would want a business plan because they're going to give you some sort of business finance and they want a cash flow. And so some business owners just go, all right, got to do a business plan, quick, churn it out, give it to the bank. Again, doesn't get reviewed. So an operations manual, and it all comes back to that, getting our business plan in with our kind of like systems, procedures or processes helps, it mitigates a little bit of risk too, It's going to help the business tick along a little bit better than if it's all just in the business owner's head. So many business owners don't do this stuff because, again, it's a time commitment. They say to me, oh, I'm too busy, I don't have time to do. And I understand that, I get that. There's always something to do when you're a business owner. But I think we've got to think of systems and procedures as a kind of like a long-term benefit. A friend of mine once, a few years ago, had a mortgage broking firm in Adelaide, and he had to actually go and move to Perth to be with his sick father. And he said that he just systemised his business. I said to him, how did you, had 4 or 5 staff, how did you just pick up within a month or so and just move to Perth and your business is still going? He said, I locked myself away in my office for a week and just wrote out all the procedures and checklists and processes. Now, I'm not saying that that's for everyone, but then he could just go, okay, now it's all done, here you go, you guys just run it, and they did. And, we can't all do that, but it's a good example of the fact that, look at the benefit of that. He could just pick it, and he still had a business that ran without him. That's the benefit of the processes and systems. Number 5 is, I feel, disengaged employees, and because a lot of SMEs don't have the right processes and systems or checklists in place, it just filters into the employees as well because they don't have a clear direction, they don't have a clear guide. So, if we want to execute strategies well, we're going to need a team that's hopefully motivated. Who wants motivated, engaged employees? Who wants them all to come to work, motivated, engaged, and ready to go? We all want that, don't we? We feel motivated and engaged because we're passionate about our business, but not so much that sometimes doesn't translate into our employees. There's a saying in the business where people go, no one loves your business or cares about your business as much as the owner, as the owner, do they? And there was a global survey that said that only 31% of employees are engaged in their work, only 31%, and they're actively motivated enough and proactive in their jobs. So that's a whopping 69% of the workforce, is what they're saying, is likely to become disengaged. They're not motivated, and they can become a barrier to success and growth. So how can a business make a profit if it's not executing on these strategies? And how can a business execute strategies if employees aren't engaged? So if we want growth from the strategies that we've written, we need to be profitable and we need to have engaged employees. Who can relate to some of that sort of stuff? Is there any questions before I sort of go on? Because it's interactive, if you've got something you want to pipe in, it's all good.
So what is the key reason for this employee disengagement? Is it only the key direction or other aspect as well?
I think I'm going to cover a little bit of that soon. I think, again, I mean, it's hard to say to a business owner, you're having employee issues because you're the problem. And again, that's not always, but I think, again, it's people need to feel like they're part of a team, like they're part of a purpose, don't they? Who wants to go to work and just feel like they're a number? No one inherently does. And I think that could be, you know, I mean, I've got an example. My daughter recently started a new job, and her and the lady, there's two of them in the office. The owners, within the first, she's only been there 3 weeks, aren't even there. They're off, whatever, I don't know, they went on a holiday or had other commitments, and they've just gone to these ladies, right, here you go, just do that. And I think, again, that's not cohesive with having motivated, engaged employees, because the owner isn't even there to train them or guide them, or, you know. So I think it's important that, you know, we keep our employees motivated by being, well, number one, being there, you know, and rallying the troops, if you want to call it that, yeah. So perhaps the question we need, oh, there we go. I forgot to go through all them, didn't I? So again, no accountability, no feedback. There's no clear culture. I mean, who knows that if we don't create a culture, culture creates itself, really, doesn't it? You know, if we're not there, if the owner's not there to guide and lead. And also, yeah, again, like, not included in the business vision. You know, like we said before, there's no point having a business plan and vision and mission and values if it's not, you know, integrated into the business, so it's not talked about. I mean, staff meetings is probably a big thing too. As many SMEs don't have staff meetings. They don't have regular time where they talk to their employees or gather them together to talk about, hey, this is our vision, this is where we're going, guys, this is our mission, this is what the business is all about, and then hope, you know, that translates into customer service. So what differentiates a business success or a business failure, if we want to call that? And you know, what do we do and how do we fix it? How do we drive success? How do we change all of these struggles and these problems that business owners have and start driving a business? Because the more employees you take on, you know, the more inherently problems you might have too. I've got a client that recently has got a bakery up in the country, and they just bought another, or expanded, and they've now got 2 bakeries. They didn't really have a plan, they didn't have a coach, they didn't have anything like that. And they've started to have, as you can imagine, hospitality industry, you know, staff is always a challenge. I said to them, they come to me with all of these staff problems. This person's not doing that, or we can't find good, you know, that all of the problems you have with staff. And I said to them, you kind of, in some ways, you've doubled your problems. You've got two businesses, but because you haven't, and again, they didn't have systems, they didn't have processes, they weren't having meetings, all of that stuff that we just talked about, they weren't having any of those things. They've doubled their problems. And so now we've got to put in place things like business plan, we've got to put in place a vision and mission and values to try and get that team on board with what the owners want to do, because the owners feel frustrated that they can't get the people to kind of do what they want to do. So how do we fix these problems and drive success? And I've found that over the years, you know, I've worked with SMEs, I've found the business owners who are motivated and driven, and the ones that chase their dreams, and hopefully have got a really good dose of positive mindset going on, they're the ones that generally expand, grow, become bigger, better, and more successful. And I think mindset, and this is a whole other conversation, has a lot to do with success in business too. You know, have you ever heard any successful person that went around sort of talking negatively, or, you know, telling the world how bad things were? Are they successful? Generally not. Like the Simon Sineks and the Gary Vaynerchuks of the world, they're generally positive people. Simon Sinek's got a podcast, I think, called A Little Bit of Optimism. So he's already, you know, those people don't go around talking about all the bad stuff that's going on. So I think a big dose of positive mindset is really, really important in business to drive success. So this little diagram here, so there's many areas of business that we need to work on to create that kind of well-oiled machine, if we can call it like that. Because a business is a machine. It has lots of different little moving parts. There's lots of things that need to be done to keep that machine going. So I've taken the acronym of fitness and I've turned it into this step-and-step model of to demonstrate these key components of what I believe are really important areas that every business needs to think about. So F is for financial. So again, you know, if we don't financially making a profit, then we're not going to have a business. You know, internal controls is around, you know, the checklist, the operations manuals, those sort of things. Training, you know, keeping staff up to date with professional development, keeping yourself as an owner up to date with training and professional development. Knowing numbers, so in terms of non-financial stuff like KPIs and how many people are coming in the door and leads and things like that. The environment, you know, the workspace, the dialogue with the business owner as well, those sort of things impact on culture. Staff and team, you know, building what I call a superstar team. I think we all need a superstar team if we're going to drive business success. And having those systems and checklists and procedures in place. So financial. So this aspect of business is clearly very important because if we don't get customers to pay our invoices, then we haven't got much of a business, have we? So we need to, you know, be looking at not only our bank account or our debtors, but, you know, we need to have a budget or a forecast in place. You know, because this is actually planning for the future. You know, what do we predict or expect that we're going to turn over in the next 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. And surprisingly, I would hazard a guess that probably 95% of SMEs do not have any sort of budget or forecast in place. Because they probably don't know where to start with it. They may have one, but it's not reviewed. So again, no point in doing a business plan, no point in doing a budget if we're not going to review it. Because the idea with these things is we do a monthly rolling 12 months and then we have management meetings to actually look at what we've done, budget versus actual though, and ascertain why we haven't done as well, why we've gone over, why we've gone under. And we can tweak things in the next period. You know, financial KPIs, it could be, you know, setting in place like a goal setting system of how much we want turnover to be. Those sort of things, work in progress in terms of if you're a service business, you know, or even manufacturing, there could be work that's in the pipeline that hasn't been billed yet, you know, those type of things. Looking at reports, you know, looking at a P&L and balance sheet. I listened to this podcast a few weeks ago and a guy who's like a solopreneur in the UK, he's got a really big profitable business, said that 2 years in, his finance manager came into him and said, oh, look, Chris, I think we need to just have a bit of a meeting about the finances. You know, I think our costs are blowing out a bit. I feel like we're sort of getting a bit cash flow shortage. We need to have a meeting, look at our P&L, have a look at our reports and stuff like that. And he actually said to her, what's a P&L, right? What's a profit? Well, he actually didn't know what a P&L statement is, but yet he was 2 or 3 years into a business. I think it was millions of turnover, and he said to her, what's a P&L? So he said, looking back now, you know, he finds that quite funny that he said that. But this is the point. We need to sort of get educated around this stuff, around getting used to looking at financial reports. I know some business owners say to me they're scared to look at their financial reports because it might tell them the truth. But, you know, we need to, because we're going to make decisions. And we can't make decisions if we don't have eyes on this stuff. Everyone know what break-even point is? You know, what's the minimum we need to cover costs? So many small businesses do not know that. Like when I say that to them, it's like a foreign language. They haven't done, and it's a pretty easy exercise. You know, If you've got a bricks and mortar business, you know what's expected to what you're going to pay out. Electricity, rent, things like that don't change. Fixed overheads, they don't change. So it's important to have your eyes on that too. Sales margins as well. Many, and obviously this is for product-based businesses, but I find too many business people might set prices. So let's say you're a homewares shop, they've obviously got their costs on the goods that they purchase are quite high, so they need to make sure that their sales they're making 100% on everything. Now, some people might do that, and then 5 years later they don't review it. And again, so we're going to get into a bit of trouble if we're not reviewing sales margins. That's really important because we can be losing money, just like a cafe. If they buy cans of Coke and they go up 10 cents, you need to put your price up 10 cents. We need to have our eyes on that stuff. So fitness, internal controls. I think this is a really important area, and again, one that is overlooked. So if we think McDonald's, I say to all my clients, think McDonald's, think how they work. Why can a 15-year-old go into McDonald's and just hit the ground running type of thing? Because McDonald's have got operations manuals, they've got procedures, they've got systems in place that help that person do their job. And why do you've probably heard this, a lot of employers look favourably upon young people that have worked at McDonald's. Both my daughters, I've got a 19 and a 21-year-old, both of them worked at McDonald's for 2 or 3 years, and their employment prospects later in life actually did get better because they had on their resume that they'd been trained in McDonald's, the McDonald's way, because they've got an excellent operational training system for those people. It's the old rinse and repeat model. Do it once, repeat often. So, as I said before, for most SMEs, this is a daunting type of thing. When I say to someone you need to start writing policies and procedures or checklists, it's like the big deflate of the balloon. Do I really have to? But if you can see the long-term benefit of this stuff, it becomes much more of a value proposition. Is okay, I'm investing in the future. I'm investing my time for a return in the future. And I think this stuff too is not about a business owner just doing more work, because they say to me, oh, Sarah, but it's more work, right? And I go, but what you need to do is delegate this stuff out. You've got staff, they're capable. Let's say, you've got a cafe and you need to do a procedure on how someone cleans the chip fryer, right? Just film that person, film them cleaning, then you've got a procedure. Put it in your Dropbox and then everyone can access it. So if we've got all this stuff in our heads, we've got our operations manual in our heads, then there's twofold. We're not going to create a business that's a saleable asset because it's all reliant on us. And number two, we're not training our staff to do business the way that we want them to do it. So, because every time every time a business loses a staff member, you've got to retrain another person. And who knows, training people is a big, big cost in business. Who's ever trained a person in their business? Yeah. And if that person, unless you write it down, video it, whatever, or bottle their knowledge, so to speak, then you've got to reinvent the wheel, don't you, the next time. That Johnny leaves, Jenny comes in, and you've got to retrain Jenny. And that is, to most business people, they're just like, I haven't got time for that. I haven't got time for that. And that's why, like my example before with my daughter in a new job, she's just been thrown at the deep end, go for it. Because those people just, I haven't got time. I haven't got time to train them. Hopefully, they're going to do the right thing. And so having our business plan, we've got to tweak it, we've got to adjust it. It's going to be, I call it a living, breathing business plan. I say to my people, create a business plan once, but review it, tweak it. Business changes. Before I was in the printing room, the 3D printing room, and Raphael was showing me how this printer was, you know, creating this model and it'd be going for, what, 20 hours or something. Now, to me, I hadn't seen that before. But it just proves that technology is changing at a rapid rate, and our business plan's got to change. It's got to change with the times. It's got to change with technology. What we were doing in our business, you know, even 5 years ago, if you think about it, has changed dramatically. So we need to keep up to date. And it's part of internal controls too, is the good old SWOT analysis. Who's done a SWOT analysis, right? Sounds boring, but it helps identify, you know, what your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. We know what that is. But it helps us to like start thinking about our business a bit more too, about, okay, where am I lacking? Where am I strong? You know, what advantages have I got? What disadvantages have I got? How do I plug the holes? It gets us thinking strategically when we're doing SWOT. And I mean, SWOT's like a risk management type of tool, really, isn't it? You know, it helps us to assess where we are. And if we've got, just going back to internal controls, policies and procedures, it talks to, you know, if you employ a new person, I mean, who wants to be known as an employer of choice? Who would like people coming to them to be employed? Who wants to be that? You know, and then you don't have to go look for anyone. You'd like to be known. You know, the Googles and Apples and all that, they have all they're sort of known as the, you know, the funky sort of place to work. Who wants to be known as a fun, you know, fun? Employees want to come to work and have a bit of fun, don't they? They don't want it to all be serious. So having those policies and procedures, or an operations manual, whatever you want to call it, shows those people that we're serious. We're a serious business. We've got these things in place. We're serious about what we're doing here. So again, I think it's important on the business fitness scale for internal control. How am I going for time? So the T in fitness, training. I think training, again, is the benefits can be grossly underestimated by small business on the benefits of ongoing training. And again, it's an area that can be just overlooked by business owners because, again, well, we don't have time. People are going to keep churning out the work. We haven't got time to put them in a training course, you know. But, you know, if we're a business owner, it doesn't matter whether we've got 30 staff or we've got one. We're a leader. If we're a business owner, who considers themselves a leader as a business owner? Do you think you're a leader? But we are, because we've got followers. Even if it's just me, I'm a solo business owner. I've got someone that helps me with like a PA type of role. But who's my followers? My clients too. Your customers and your clients are following you, and they're expecting you to deliver a product or service. They can't do it themselves, it doesn't matter what you deliver them. So you're a leader. And I know many SMEs do struggle with the fact that, oh, hang on, I'm not a leader, I'm just a plumber, or, you know, I'm just a cafe owner. But you're a leader. So you need to, you know, train yourself too. It's good to invest in yourself. Who would agree that it's good to invest in training yourself, professional development, uni, TAFE, whatever? Who would agree that that's a good investment of time and money? Yeah, yeah. A wise person once said, the only thing worse than spending time and money on training your employees and having them leave is not training them and having them stay. Have you heard that? Anyone heard that? Okay. So we're not going to train them. They're just going to get either bored, I don't know, some people may need to be doing a lot of things, and they stay and then they can't carry out their task properly. My client the other day, again with the bakery, he went to his baker and one of his managers in the bakery and said, look, we're getting an incentive from the government to put you through a Certificate 3 in business or a Certificate 4 in leadership and management. If they put those people through and they get some sort of government subsidy, right? These staff members jumped at it. They said, yeah. We're talking about a bakery. right? But these people wanted the ongoing training because they're like, well, otherwise, this guy said to him, I'll just get bored. I can make bread with my eyes shut. I can fry donuts without even looking. But if I get a leadership and management, then I'm ongoing, I'm learning, I'm training myself. So they jumped at it. So we need to integrate training into our business as an important part of ongoing learning and development to drive growth and change. So fitness, numbers, as we talked about before, but this is more about the non-financial side of the business. Keeping track of how many leads are coming in, or our customer loyalty and retention, and even things like surveys and things like that can help with that. How many appointments or meetings are we having every week, month? Percentage of sales of top 5 clients. So, and the reason I said that is because if a business is too heavily reliant on a couple of clients, well then there's a big risk with that, isn't there? If you look at, if you've got a 300 grand turnover and one of your clients is 100, that's like 33%, and that client leave, get a big hole, a big cash flow hole in your business. But again, you'd be surprised at how many business owners actually do that and don't realise until I say to them, hang on, this one here, this client here is giving you 30 of your other, are they? So we've got to be mindful of that stuff. Who's heard the saying, what gets measured gets done, what gets measured and fed back gets done well, and what gets rewarded gets repeated. So when we measure things, it gives us a sense of achievement. Who would say that when they keep track of something or they've measured something, it can be anything, that they feel a sense of achievement? Who can get caught up in the fact of, like, what is it now? It's the 28th of May. Some of us might do a monthly review. I don't know, sometimes I sit down in my journal, do a bit of a monthly review. Who can go, I've done nothing. I've achieved nothing. Who kind of can beat themselves up? We can all do that to some degree, can't we? Who's done that before? Said to themselves, I've done nothing. My business owners, I meet with them every 2 weeks. I give them homework, so to speak. Okay, I've done nothing this fortnight. But when we actually go through it and we talk it out, they actually have. It's just the fact that they probably haven't recorded it anywhere, or they haven't sat down and thought about it, So, and again, like, if it's fed back, what we're talking about is employees, is getting them on board. So feeding back to them what's going on in terms of here. Most people are going to go, I'm not going to show my employees my dollars, I'm not going to show them my P&L, and that's fine, you probably won't. But showing them KPIs in terms of, sales went up 20% last month. We had 50 customers come through the door in January, and in February it went to 70. Those sort of things, they're encouraging and they're motivating employees, and us too, because we're seeing growth, aren't we? So having some sort of measurement system for these things, whether it's, these days you can automate the heck out of everything, and CRMs can do it, but even spreadsheet, if you want to keep it that simple, just keep it on a spreadsheet. Last year, because I'm a speaker, a lot of my speaking events got cancelled last year. And in December or January, I sort of did a bit of a review, and I actually, because I'm an accountant too, I had to keep a spreadsheet on all the speaking gigs that I did, right? And I thought, okay, what speaking gigs have I done? I felt like I hadn't done hard. I might have done 10 or something like that. But when I actually added up, it was guest on a podcast, I might have written a guest blog, done a webinar, or spoken in person. It was actually 28. And I thought, really? 28, I couldn't believe it, because in my mind I'm thinking 10. So if we record things and measure things, it's more likely that we're going to encourage ourselves and our teams. So it's important to be on top of that stuff. So, and then for improvements too, if your leads are down, or your appointments are down, or your customer loyalty and retention is down from one month to the next, it's a good time to rethink and recalibrate, isn't it? Any questions before we?
I've got a question, right? So Our work priorities are always something that's hotly debated.
Yeah.
Probably why some people don't spend time to work on business plans or targets or KPIs or even processes. They're just sort of consumed on the task, in the
Yes.
task. What's a way around that so it doesn't feel like you're wasting time, quote unquote, on doing something else, not directly on the business? Because I think for some of us, we sort of feel that as well.
Yeah.
When we look at these tasks and we go, well, it's not directly, giving us income, or it's not, what's a good work around that issue?
Yeah, look, it's extremely common, and it's something I talk to my business people about every day. And I think again, it's about number one, it's about priorities. I have a tool I use with business people called a time inventory. So if they're struggling to find the time to do this stuff, it's about, I get them to fill out, what they've done for the week, like a track and measure type of thing. What they've done for the week, what they're spending their time doing. And then using that tool to actually go, okay, what could I delegate? What could I outsource? What could I automate? There's an old saying, look at your task, can you automate, delegate or eliminate? Test it on those three things. And yeah, it is, again, some of this stuff like processes or the non-financial gain stuff, I think we've just got to have a mindset of the bigger picture. We've got to go, all right, if I write out this procedure that takes, or I write out 10 procedures that take me 3 hours, what benefit is it going to be to me? I think we've got to look at the benefits and just have that mindset, because it is, we're all kind of, even especially the field I come from, accounting is very process driven and outcome driven in terms of, right, we've got to get work out the door. As you can imagine, tax returns have to be lodged on time and BAS statements, and there's all these deadlines, and it's like, even when I became a partner in a firm, which was 2006, the overall kind of consensus in the firm was, you've got to churn out work. There's none of this business planning, strategic stuff. But I had to learn over the years that that's perhaps going to go into burnout too, and also not serving clients well. So prioritising, and a bit of a mindset thing too. Does that help? Yeah. So fifth one out of 7 is environment. I think that we underestimate our environment. I mean, we're all in an environment here. We've all got tables and chairs and a physical environment, and it's nice and it's pleasant. We've got lounges, and I would say that this room here is quite nice. It's quite a good environment. But if we go into our office and, it's dark, there's not much light, we've got paperwork piled high and messy, and we can't find anything, that sort of stuff, what happens? What do we feel like? What does it make us feel like when we go into a messy, unorganised office, even whether it's ours or someone else's? What do we think?
You won't feel to work.
Sorry?
Even we won't feel to work.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
frustrating.
It's not conducive to working well, is it? You feel like, oh gosh, where do I start? And so it's a physical location as well, but it's also an emotional thing, and it's a mental thing too. And like I said before, with mission, vision, values, that creates an environment, it creates culture. When we've got a clearly defined mission, we've got a clearly defined vision, and we know what our values are. Everyone's got a set of values. Everyone could probably give me their top 3, because it's intrinsically in our human nature. Most of us here, one of our values, I would say, is to not steal or something like that, or to be honest. 99% of people, I would say, have honesty as a value. But it goes beyond that into, what are our non-negotiables in our business? What are we not going to take for granted? What are we not going to rule? Setting rules too, even for clients or customers, is important, or having boundaries, because as we know, clients and customers take up a lot of our time, and they can waste our time too, to some degree, depending on what industry you're in. And we've got to have boundaries, and that comes back to our values as well. And what comes out of our mouth, as a business owner, how are we speaking? How are we talking in our business? Is it conducive to warm, friendly, accessible, reliable? Is that, if those are our values, that was just a bit of an example, is creating that environment makes employees want to come back. Who's got someone work for them, like 1 or 2 people maybe? Has anyone got staff yet? You know, in your workplace, you want it to feel, you don't want everyone coming in grumpy. Now, if you come in grumpy, then that's probably going to rub off on them, isn't it, right? So creating that environment that's a learning environment, that's warm, that's friendly. I mean, customers want to come back. Who's got a favourite coffee shop that they might go to every week? Has anyone got where they might get a coffee or a tea or somewhere that they go? What makes you keep going back to that place? Beside if the coffee's good.
It's experience.
Experience.
That's what we're trying to sort of foster in our business is like what's the experience of someone coming into our environment, and it needs to be one that they want to engage, they feel comfortable, they feel valued, and to me that's what culture is.
Yeah, that's right. They feel, yeah. So you're going to keep coming back because you as the consumer are going to feel wanted. You're going to feel needed. You're going to feel like you've received a good service for the money that you've paid. And employees, it's the same thing. They want to feel like they're valued. They want to feel like they're part of a team. And that's how we create that culture. So mission, vision, I call it MVV. I go through this with all my clients. I make sure, and again, some people go, okay, why do I need to do a mission, vision, values? What for, you know? But it has to be one that's living, breathing. You know, some people might even stick it on their wall. Most people will just have it on their website. But if we've got that clear vision, it gives us clarity too. Who knows that clarity is a key to success? If we're unclear about our products and services or what we're delivering, then our client isn't going to be clear on what we're offering either. And they're not going to be able to engage, and they're not going to be able to give you money either. So we've got to have clarity, and that's what mission, vision, values. And look, I don't ever think a mission, vision, values statements are ever going to get created in 5 minutes. They might take 5 months, you know, but I think it's important when we start out that we're really, really clear on that stuff. So yeah, building a team, staff, you know. Staff issues, as I said earlier, is probably one of the biggest struggles, challenges that business owners face, and I believe it will continue to be faced going into 2021. We always hear on the news and stuff how a lot of places are finding it hard to find people. I mean, we think about in the Riverland, you know, they're finding it hard to find people to come in to pick grapes or fruit and stuff like that. And I know that's linked to maybe borders being shut and things like that. But I think it's going to get harder and harder, more of a challenge for business owners to find and keep the right people unless we do some of this other stuff. So it makes sense to invest in them. It makes sense to invest in people, culture, ongoing learning. And who's heard too that people leave bad bosses and managers, not companies? Who's heard that saying before? Now, I know, and as a business owner, no one wants to hear that it's my fault that that person hasn't performed. And it's a hard thing. It's a humbling thing too. Who knows Gary Vaynerchuk, love him or hate him, whatever your view is, he's you know, on the train of servant leadership type stuff. You're there to serve your employees. They're not there to serve you. And that is such a kind of shift in what we think about these days, isn't it? You're like, oh, I'm employing that person to do, you know, they're going to do my work. But maybe if we did employ some more of that stuff, we can do ourselves out of a job, you know. We can automate the heck out of our business so that we don't have to be chained to it. And I think that's, again, back to your point, Raphael, it's about, you know, we're doing tasks that maybe aren't generating money, but they're automating a business so that the business doesn't control us and doesn't run us. Because many small business owners, their business runs them, their business controls them. And one of the big things I've had people come to me for help with is they haven't got time, you know, time with family, time with friends, time to do stuff that they want to do because their business is just all consuming. So we want to build a superstar team, I call it, is, you know, so that they can take some of the load from us. I read a quote the other day that said, "Assumptions are the termites of relationships." How easy is it for any of us to assume something? You know, when we get, especially if it's a close friend or family, how easy it is for us to get hurt by something that someone said or did, or we assumed that they said or that we did. And it's no different in a, you know, employee-employer relationship. Is we shouldn't just assume that people have skills, or we shouldn't just assume that people know how to do something. We've really got to make sure that, like, the right people are in the right seats on the bus, as I call it. So the bus is the business, and we can employ someone that's highly skilled, highly qualified. They might have worked in the industry before, but if you put them in the wrong seat on your bus or the wrong position, they're not going to thrive, are they? They're not going to do well. They're just not going to perform. So, and I've seen this happen too, especially in retail and hospitality, is people say, I employed this person, they were really enthusiastic in the beginning, but then after a month or two, they sort of started to go downhill and lack motivation. And I think that happens probably for a few reasons. One is maybe that person isn't cut out for that position. Maybe what the business owner thought was their skills isn't, or lack of training, lack of process, lack of guidance. So investing in having, clear written job roles and position descriptions. Who's ever written a job description or a role position description for a potential employee in your business, or had the HR, right? Okay. I've seen lots of business people go, I'm too busy, I need to employ someone, right? I say, okay, but what? So they put an ad in, but they haven't even written a position description, so they don't even know what that person's going to do. So we can't employ people if we're not clear on what they're going to do. I've got a lady that's got a pub that she recently bought, and she got in there, it got really busy, she's just doing all the stuff, and she was in overwhelm. She was basically said, I've got so many things to do, Sarah, I can't switch off. My mind's just going a million miles an hour. And I'm like, okay, well, number one, you need an admin person to take some of that load, because otherwise you're never going to get anywhere. You're just going to be treading water. 2 or 3 months later, I've been to see her, and you can just see that weight has been lifted off her. She's gone from overwhelmed, stress face, whatever that looks like, to, I feel like I've offloaded to this lady. And I said to her in the beginning, make sure you write a list of all of the things that you want that lady to do before you just go, here, can you just do admin? Admin. What constitutes admin? Could be anything. So having clear role descriptions and processes, procedures, and training, really important things to keep people in the job. So delegating before people are ready, delegating without clear tasks and things like that can be a nightmare too, because they might just we assume that they know how to do it your way, but most people have already been trained a different way, unless we're talking about someone straight out of school or something. Most people have got their own inbuilt habits as to how they do things, and when we bring them into our business, we want to make sure that they're doing things our way. It's like McDonald's. This is how we do it here. This is how McDonald's does it, and so we can duplicate ourselves. That's the whole idea with building staff, is duplicating ourselves so we can grow. And the thing with staff too is, when we do delegate, is don't take things back. Who's found themselves delegating and taking something back because they didn't feel like? I've seen that. Now, what do you think that does? If you were in that, if your boss said to you, I want you to do this task, and then a month later he goes, oh, I'm going to do it. What would you feel? How would you feel in yourself?
I feel terrible. You wouldn't feel like you're the right person for that job.
Yeah, that's right. So everyone's going to feel that. They're going to feel like okay, I didn't live up to that expectation. So we don't want to take things back, because I've seen it go terribly wrong. It's not nice. So we don't want to micromanage, because no one wants to be looked over their shoulder either. Who wants their boss looking over their shoulder, going, are you doing the right thing? that's again, so there's another benefit of having, if someone comes to you, who feels like sometimes staff members might come to you with dumb questions. I don't know, why is that person asking me that question again? Who's ever felt that? That someone's come and you've showed them what to do and then the next day they go, how do you do that? Or how do you do that? So we want to make sure that they know exactly what to do and that it relieves you properly of the task, because otherwise it's going to actually make more work for yourself, isn't it, if we don't delegate properly. And having regular meetings, having staff meetings, it includes them. Many business people don't have staff meetings. I've got, again, back to the bakery, they've got 30 staff now and they weren't having staff meetings. And they're just having ongoing problems with a revolving door, they called it, of staff just coming in and out and in and out and in and out. But now that they've started to have a couple of meetings, they can see that the staff actually are interested in what the business is doing. They're interested in where they're going, what the plans for the future are, how they're performing. The staff actually want to know those things because it makes them feel like they're part of the team. Any other questions before we... What's the time?
It's 10 past 1.
Okay, so we'll probably... Yeah, okay. So, and the seventh thing in the business fitness realm is, systems too, is having software and hardware and document management type systems to help us and our employees do their job properly, I suppose. Tools in business are just as important for someone in an office as they are for a tradesperson, isn't it? If we don't have the right tools, we can't do our job properly. So, and in 2021, there's no excuse to not be taking advantage of technology because the accessibility of it is far better and far lower cost than perhaps what it even was 10 years ago. So things like, having a centralised document filing system, and again, you'd be actually surprised at how many business people don't have this stuff. The lady at the pub, she had inbox, on her email, she had all these folders and files. She had them on her computer, and then she had a paper filing system, and it was just all over the shop. She didn't have anything that was succinct, and I actually had to go and say, okay, let's just get OneDrive or Google Drive and let's put them all in there. And then you've got one central location. Having cloud accounting software like Moab or Xero, really important, I think, and you can access that low cost. You can get that sort of stuff from $200 a year, some of that. Efficient for accounts management. Having your CRM or a POS system for sales, it's important to have that stuff as well, so you can effectively deal with customers. And these are also, again, tracking tools for what we were saying before, know the numbers, know the KPIs. We can use this software to track that stuff. Who uses any sort of project management tools? On the smaller scale, there's kind of Trello and Asana and Monday and all of those sort of things where we can kind of track, having that central place as well. Email system, Outlook, digital diary, that sort of stuff. Again, you'd be quite surprised at how many people don't implement that stuff in their business. Outlook in itself can be a brilliant tool just for organising a whole lot of stuff. And, having team management app, like Slack or Voxer or WhatsApp and those sort of talking, messaging apps is great to keep communication lines open for staff too. And if you're a larger team, well, then, that's going to be really good because you're all on the same system talking. And again, like social media, email, Google Ads for digital, we've got to have, obviously, sales and marketing is a big part of our business too. We've got so many low-cost tools available to promote and market our business, haven't we? And these things make our life easier, don't they? Well, they're meant to. Sometimes technology doesn't always work to our advantage and we get frustrated with it. But they're all here to hopefully make our life easier and make our business journey flow more smoothly. So I think it's really important. So, my last point is self-education. I can't, and I know we're at Flinders Uni, I get that. But, and of course, university degrees and courses are important. But I think one of the big things that made a big shift and change in my business and entrepreneurial journey was just self-educate. Now, whether you're a book reader or you want Audible or you've got a Kindle, or I like paper. I like to feel the paperback, you know, I don't know who likes that. Is you can't underestimate how much self-education can really, really help you boost your business. I read about 2 books a month now, but I probably only started doing that about 3 years ago. I wasn't a real book reader, but I can just go back and see the growth I've had. When I sort of left my accounting firm and decided I was going to be a speaker and a coach and stuff, it wasn't as easy as I thought. I thought, oh yeah, it's just, I've done business before, I know what I'm doing, but I had a big knowledge gap in certain areas like sales, marketing, digital marketing, that sort of stuff, you know, because accountants aren't taught any of that. We're just taught how to crunch numbers. So just reading books in different areas, you know, really, really helped me to up my game on certain things. You know, you think about a book's only $20 or $30, that $20 or $30 investment, and then it might be, I don't know, you might take 5 or 10 hours to read a book. You could learn more on that than you could on any other sort of formal education sometimes. Depends who the author is. Who's a book reader or a self-educator, yeah? Yeah, I think it's really important. And my sort of last tip is, just in all of this stuff, you know, if we want to grow and change our business and improve ourselves, we need to seek professional advice. I've only got accountant, lawyer, coach, advisor, but you know, we need to have a team of advisors and professionals around us. You know, we should have a financial planner or a mortgage broker or people that are professionals in their field that can do and help with things that we can't. You know, IT, all of those things. I think it's really important to not try and do some of the harder stuff yourself. You know, I'm not going to go and try and print a 3D model. I'll leave that to Raphael. He's going to be doing that because that's not my area of expertise. So I think it's really important because, again, I've seen people try and do some of the harder stuff themselves and get it really wrong, and it can be costly to fix up later on. It's better to, you know, I've got a client that's about to buy another business, like a manufacturer, and he's going to outlay, you know, 300,000 or 400,000 for a new business. And I said to him, you know, you need to go and get a proper contract drawn up from a lawyer or some advice. And he goes, oh, but that costs money. And I'm like, but isn't it better to put 3 or 4 grand into a lawyer to give you advice and a watertight contract before you outlay 400? You know, so just things like that. Be surprised, a lot of people don't do it, but you really, really need to do that, I think, in business. So just to recap, business fitness model, these are the 7 key areas, I believe, of a high performance business that we really need to have our eyes on. The financial aspect, the internal controls, training ourselves and our staff, numbers, non-financial KPIs, things like that, and our environment, physical and mental, emotional environment, our staff and our team, because we're never going to grow and scale a business without a team, and having the proper systems and internal controls in place is really important too. So that concludes my session, and I welcome anyone to have a coffee with me, or if you want to ask more questions. I think we've got a little bit, probably 10 minutes, so yep. If you want to ask any questions, I'm open. If there's anyone on the webinar that's got any questions or chats or anything like that.
So when it comes to the team engagement, you're given some task, but what happens sometimes
They will change the direction and they will be doing something else what we given, that is something different. So how do you how do you get them back to that particular work?
Yeah, I think, again, that comes down to accountability. So I think, like I said, many business people give out tasks or delegate, but not actually follow up on it. So if you give someone a task to, I don't know, go and update your website, and you give them all the detail, and then they get off track, I think we've got to be checking. I think we've got to have deadlines and timelines on things, because otherwise if we leave it open-ended, people will make sure it's open-ended and they'll take advantage of it. Yeah. So maybe keep steering that person back. I know that's a bit of work. Keep steering that person on track, back onto track.
Any more questions from the audience? Online, Raf? All good? Okay, then I think, thank you, Sarah, for your time and for coming here
Thank you,
today. I'm
Elizabeth.
sure that our community appreciated it, and then it's being recorded, so yes, they will also have the opportunity to watch it in their own time. So let's give another round of applause to Sarah for thanking her today. And yes, and thank you for coming here at Flinders MBI, and we look forward to welcome you for our next sessions as well. So we have one on cybersecurity that's coming up, and another one on leadership. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you everyone for being attentive. I know it's hard.